The summer heat in London was unbearable that Tuesday afternoon. Marcus Thompson, a 28-year-old accountant from Ohio, stood outside Buckingham Palace with his brand-new camera hanging around his neck. He had saved for 2 years to afford this European vacation, and London was supposed to be the highlight of his trip. The palace gates were crowded with tourists from every corner of the world, all hoping to catch a glimpse of the famous royal guards in their iconic red uniforms and tall black hats. Marcus pushed through the crowd, desperate to get the perfect shot for his Instagram account. He had promised his followers back home that he would capture something truly spectacular. Standing perfectly still near the palace entrance was guard William Hartley, a decorated soldier who had served his country for over 15 years. William took immense pride in his duty, maintaining his stoic composure despite the chaos of tourists surrounding him daily. His uniform was pristine, his posture flawless, and his dedication unwavering. Marcus noticed an ice cream vendor nearby and decided to treat himself to a large chocolate swirl cone. The sweet treat was exactly what he needed to cool down in the oppressive heat. As he licked the creamy dessert, he spotted the perfect angle for his photograph. The guard stood majestically against the ornate palace backdrop, creating an ideal composition. Excitement bubbled within Marcus as he raised his camera with one hand while holding his ice cream with the other. He wanted to capture the guard's stoic expression and the grandeur of the palace in one frame. This would definitely be the photo that would make his friends jealous and boost his social media presence. But in his eagerness to get closer for a better shot, Marcus misjudged his footing on the slightly uneven pavement. His sneaker caught on a small crack in the stone walkway, causing him to stumble forward dramatically. Time seemed to slow down as he struggled to regain his balance. The chocolate ice cream cone flew from his grip in a perfect arc through the air. Marcus watched in horror as the cold, sticky dessert sailed directly toward the motionless guard. The creamy mixture splattered across William's immaculate red uniform, coating his brass buttons and dripping down onto his polished black boots. The crowd around them fell silent, creating an eerie pause in the usually bustling tourist area. Phones and cameras were immediately raised as dozens of witnesses began recording the unexpected incident. Marcus stood frozen, his face turning as red as the guard's uniform, realizing the magnitude of what had just happened. William remained perfectly still, his training preventing him from breaking character despite the humiliating situation. Ice cream continued to drip from his uniform as tourists whispered and pointed. The sweet smell of chocolate mixed with the tension in the air, creating an atmosphere thick with embarrassment and anticipation. Marcus stammered an apology, but his words seemed to disappear into the stunned silence of the crowd. He could feel hundreds of eyes staring at him, and he knew that this moment would soon be broadcast across social media platforms worldwide. His dream vacation photo had turned into a nightmare that would haunt him forever. The guard's eyes, barely visible beneath the shadow of his bearskin hat, seemed to burn with quiet intensity. Though his face remained expressionless, there was something in his gaze that made Marcus's stomach drop. He had just humiliated a symbol of British tradition and military honor in front of an international audience. Security guards began moving through the crowd, and Marcus realized that his simple tourist mistake had escalated into something much more serious. The ice cream vendor looked mortified, other tourists stepped back to avoid getting involved, and Marcus stood alone in the center of what felt like the most embarrassing moment of his entire life. As the reality of the situation sank in, Marcus understood that this was not just about a ruined uniform or a viral video. He had disrespected a man who dedicated his life to serving his country, and somehow, he knew that this incident was far from over. The guard's unwavering stare suggested that there would be consequences for this public humiliation that Marcus could never have imagined. Within hours, the video of Marcus accidentally dousing the royal guard with ice cream had spread across every major social media platform. The clip, recorded by at least 12 different tourists, showed the chocolate dessert flying through the air in slow motion before splattering across the guard's pristine uniform. The hashtag #IceCreamGate began trending worldwide. Marcus retreated to his small hotel room in central London, watching in horror as his face became an internet sensation for all the wrong reasons. News outlets picked up the story with headlines reading, "American tourist humiliates royal guard," and "Palace security incident goes viral." His phone buzzed constantly with notifications. friend requests, and messages from strangers around the globe. Meanwhile, William Hartley had been relieved of his duty for the day and required to undergo a thorough uniform cleaning and inspection. His commanding officer, Colonel Roberts, was not pleased with the international attention the incident had brought to the regiment. William sat in the barracks, still feeling the sticky residue of chocolate on his skin, despite multiple showers. The other guards ribbed William mercilessly about becoming famous for getting covered in ice cream while on duty. Though he maintained his professional composure, inside he felt deeply humiliated. His 15 years of distinguished service were now overshadowed by a viral video that portrayed him as helpless and ridiculous. Marcus tried to leave his hotel the next morning but was immediately surrounded by reporters and photographers. British tabloids had discovered his identity and were eager for an exclusive interview. He pushed through the crowd, pulling his baseball cap low over his face, but the cameras followed his every move. "Mr. Thompson, do you have anything to say to the Royal Guard?" shouted one reporter. "Will you be apologizing to the palace?" called another. Marcus quickened his pace, his heart pounding as he realized that his simple vacation had turned into an international incident that was spiraling completely out of control. Back at the palace, William received an unexpected summons to meet with his superior officers. He expected a formal reprimand or disciplinary action for the incident, even though it was clearly not his fault. Instead, Colonel Roberts presented him with an unusual opportunity that would change everything. "Hartley," the colonel began, his voice stern but with a hint of something else. "The palace is not pleased with the negative publicity this incident has generated. However, we have received an interesting proposal that might turn this situation to our advantage." William listened intently as his superior explained that a major British television network had approached the palace with an idea for a special program. They wanted to create a reality show that would demonstrate the rigorous training and discipline required to become a royal guard, using the viral incident as a starting point to educate the public about their important role. The twist was that Marcus Thompson would be invited to participate in a week-long intensive training program designed to help him understand the dedication and sacrifice required of the guards he had inadvertently humiliated. The show would be called Walking in Their Boots and would air during prime time across the United Kingdom. William was chosen to be Marcus's primary instructor throughout the program. The colonel explained that this would give William the opportunity to restore his dignity while showing the world the true meaning of duty and honor. It was also, though unspoken, a chance for some well-deserved revenge. When Marcus received the official invitation from the palace, delivered to his hotel by a uniformed messenger, he was completely bewildered. The formal letter explained that he was being offered the chance to redeem himself by participating in an educational program that would benefit both himself and the British public. The letter made it clear that declining the invitation would be seen as disrespectful and would likely result in continued negative publicity. However, participating would demonstrate his willingness to learn from his mistake and show proper respect for British traditions and military service. Marcus realized he had no choice but to accept. His employer back in Ohio had already called to express concern about the negative attention affecting the company's reputation. His family was embarrassed by the international coverage, and he desperately needed to find a way to make things right. As he signed the acceptance letter, Marcus had no idea that he was about to enter a week of intensive military training designed by someone who had very personal reasons for wanting to teach him an unforgettable lesson about respect and consequences. Marcus arrived at the Wellington barracks at 5 a.m, carrying a small duffel bag and wearing the civilian clothes that would be his last comfort for the next 7 days. The imposing brick buildings and perfectly manicured grounds made him feel small and out of place. Television cameras were already set up around the perimeter, ready to document his transformation. William Hartley stood waiting in the courtyard, his uniform immaculate and his bearing intimidating. When Marcus approached, William's eyes showed no recognition of their previous encounter, only the cold professionalism of a military instructor. The ice cream incident was not mentioned, but it hung in the air between them like an unspoken challenge. "Thompson," William's voice cut through the morning air with military precision, "for the next week, you will follow every order without question, complete every task to perfection. and learn what it truly means to serve with honor. Do you understand? Marcus nodded nervously, already regretting his decision to participate. William handed him a uniform that looked deceptively simple, but weighed much more than expected. The red tunic, black trousers, and heavy boots felt foreign and uncomfortable as Marcus struggled to dress properly under William's watchful eye. The first lesson began immediately with learning to stand at attention. What seemed like a simple task became torture, as William demanded absolute stillness for periods that stretched far longer than Marcus thought humanly possible. His legs cramped, his back ached, and sweat dripped down his face. But William showed no mercy. A royal guard must remain motionless regardless of weather, distractions, or discomfort, William explained to the cameras while Marcus trembled with effort. Tourists may mock us, throw things at us, or try to make us laugh, but we never break character. We are living symbols of duty and discipline. The drilling continued for hours. Marcus learned to march in perfect formation, his feet blistering inside the heavy boots. William corrected his posture repeatedly, adjusting his shoulders, straightening his spine, and demanding precision in every movement. The television crew captured every stumble, every correction, and every moment of obvious struggle. During weapon training, Marcus was introduced to the massive rifles carried by the guards during ceremonial duties. The weight alone nearly caused him to collapse, and William watched with barely concealed satisfaction as Marcus struggled to hold the weapon steady. The lesson was clear. Everything about being a royal guard required strength, endurance, and dedication that Marcus had never possessed. The afternoon brought lessons in palace protocol and the history of the regiment. William's knowledge was encyclopedic, and he spoke with obvious pride about the traditions and sacrifices of the guards who had served before them. Marcus began to understand that he had not just splattered ice cream on a uniform, but had disrespected centuries of military heritage. Evening brought physical training that pushed Marcus to his absolute limits. William designed exercises that tested every muscle in his body while maintaining the stoic expression required of a guard. Push-ups in full uniform, running drills in heavy boots, and strength training with military precision left Marcus exhausted and humbled. As Marcus collapsed onto his narrow bunk that night, his body screaming with pain and his mind reeling from the day's challenges, he realized that William was methodically breaking down every assumption he had about military service. This was not just training. It was a carefully orchestrated lesson in humility. The cameras had captured every moment of his struggle, and Marcus knew that the British public would see exactly how unprepared and disrespectful he had been. William's revenge was not cruel or obvious, but it was thorough and devastating in its effectiveness. What Marcus did not yet realize was that the first day had been merely an introduction. William had designed a week-long program that would progressively increase in difficulty and intensity, each day building upon the last to create a comprehensive education in respect, discipline, and the true cost of military service. The ice cream incident had been an accident, but Marcus's education in the consequences of his actions was just beginning. William Hartley was a patient man, and he had 6 more days to ensure that Marcus Thompson would never again take military service lightly or treat British traditions with casual disrespect. As Marcus drifted off to sleep, his muscles aching and his pride thoroughly demolished, he could not have imagined the challenges that awaited him in the days ahead, or how completely his understanding of honor and duty would be transformed by a guard who had turned public humiliation into the perfect opportunity for an unforgettable lesson. Day 3 brought the most challenging test yet. William led Marcus to the actual guard post outside Buckingham Palace, the same spot where the ice cream incident had occurred. The irony was not lost on either man as Marcus stood in uniform, attempting to maintain the same stoic composure that he had disrupted just days earlier. Tourists immediately recognized Marcus from the viral video, and their reactions ranged from amused pointing to outright mockery. Children threw paper airplanes at him while their parents laughed and took photos. William stood nearby, watching with apparent indifference as Marcus experienced firsthand the challenges that guards faced daily. "This is what we endure every single day," William explained to the television cameras. "Tourists treat us like statues, not human beings. They test our resolve, hoping to get a reaction that will make them famous on social media. Mr. Thompson is learning that our job requires more than just standing still." A group of teenagers approached Marcus, making funny faces and waving their hands in front of his eyes. One of them pretended to trip and brushed against his uniform, trying to provoke a response. Marcus felt his anger rising but forced himself to remain motionless, finally understanding the incredible self-control required for this duty. The real test came when a small child, no older than 6, walked up to Marcus with an ice cream cone. The child's mother was filming, clearly hoping to recreate the viral moment. The child held the ice cream close to Marcus's uniform, giggling as the cold treat nearly touched the red fabric. Marcus's heart pounded as he fought every instinct to step away or speak. William watched intently, and Marcus knew that this was the moment that would define his entire experience. The child's sticky fingers came dangerously close to his pristine uniform, but Marcus remained perfectly still, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool morning air. After what felt like hours but was only minutes, the child's mother called him away, disappointed that she had not captured the reaction she wanted. Marcus had passed the test, but the experience left him emotionally drained and physically exhausted. He finally understood the mental fortitude required to perform this duty with honor. The afternoon brought ceremonial training, where Marcus learned the precise movements required for the changing of the guard ceremony. Every step had to be perfect, every turn executed with military precision. William demonstrated the movements with fluid grace, making the complex routine look effortless, while Marcus stumbled through each sequence like an amateur dancer. The tourists see pageantry and tradition, William explained, as Marcus struggled with a particularly difficult maneuver. What they do not see is the months of training, the physical conditioning, and the mental discipline required to perform these movements flawlessly in any weather condition. The training became increasingly personal as William shared stories of guards who had served during wartime, men who had transitioned from ceremonial duties to combat roles and back again. Marcus began to understand that the colorful uniforms and tourist attractions were merely the visible surface of a much deeper military tradition. During evening reflection, William asked Marcus to write in a journal about his experiences. As Marcus struggled to find words for his transformation, he realized that his perspective on military service had changed completely. These were not toy soldiers performing for tourists, but highly trained military professionals deserving of respect and admiration. The television crew captured Marcus's emotional breakdown as he finally grasped the magnitude of his accidental disrespect. The tears were genuine as he described feeling ashamed of his casual attitude toward the guards and his thoughtless behavior as a tourist. The cameras recorded every moment of his genuine remorse and growing understanding. William watched Marcus's transformation with mixed emotions. His plan for revenge had worked perfectly, but he had not expected to feel any sympathy for the American tourist. Marcus's genuine efforts to learn and his obvious respect for the training process had begun to soften William's anger, though his professional demeanor never wavered. The evening concluded with a surprise visit from Colonel Roberts, who observed Marcus's progress and spoke privately with William about the program's success. The public response to the television show had been overwhelmingly positive, with viewers praising both Marcus's willingness to learn and William's patient instruction. As Marcus prepared for another night of exhausted sleep, he realized that he was no longer the same person who had carelessly spilled ice cream on a guard's uniform. The experience was changing him in ways he had never expected, and he found himself genuinely grateful for the opportunity to understand the depth of commitment required for military service. William's revenge was proving to be more complex than simple humiliation. He was creating a genuine transformation that would benefit both Marcus and everyone who witnessed his journey from careless tourist to respectful advocate for military tradition and honor. The 5th day marked a turning point that neither Marcus nor William had anticipated. During the morning inspection, William noticed that Marcus's uniform was perfectly arranged, his boots polished to a mirror shine, and his posture naturally straight without constant correction. The transformation was becoming genuine rather than merely performative. A special ceremony had been arranged for the television program, where Marcus would participate in an actual changing of the guard alongside experienced guardsmen. The pressure was enormous, as millions of viewers worldwide would be watching to see if the viral tourist could successfully complete the rigorous ceremonial duties. As they prepared for the ceremony, William pulled Marcus aside for a private conversation away from the cameras. For the first time since the ice cream incident, William's expression softened slightly, and he spoke to Marcus as one person to another rather than as instructor to student. "Thompson," William began, his voice less harsh than usual, "you have surprised me. When this program began, I expected you to quit within the first 2 days. I wanted you to understand the humiliation you caused, but I did not expect you to embrace the training with such dedication." Marcus looked directly into William's eyes, seeing the man behind the uniform for the first time. "I owe you an apology that goes far beyond words," Marcus replied. "I had no idea what I was mocking when I accidentally covered you with ice cream. This week has shown me that I disrespected something sacred, and I am genuinely sorry." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Colonel Roberts, who brought unexpected news that would change everything. The television program had generated such positive response that the palace had received thousands of messages from viewers praising both Marcus's transformation and William's exceptional instruction. More surprisingly, the program had inspired a significant increase in recruitment applications for the Guard regiments. Young people who had previously seen the Guards as tourist attractions now understood the honor and difficulty of military service. The viral humiliation had accidentally created one of the most successful recruitment campaigns in recent memory. The ceremony itself was a masterpiece of precision and tradition. Marcus marched alongside seasoned guards, his movements synchronized perfectly with theirs. The crowd that had once mocked him now watched with genuine respect as he demonstrated the skills he had learned. Every step, every turn, every moment of the intricate routine was executed flawlessly. William felt an unexpected surge of pride as he watched Marcus perform. The American tourist had not only learned the physical requirements, but had embraced the spirit of duty and honor that made the Guards special. The revenge that had begun with anger had evolved into something resembling mentorship. During the ceremony, an unprecedented event occurred. As Marcus stood at attention, a young child approached with an ice cream cone, clearly trying to recreate the viral moment. Without breaking character, Marcus remained perfectly still as the child waved the treat near his uniform. The crowd held its breath, remembering the original incident. The child's mother, recognizing the significance of the moment, gently guided her son away while apologizing quietly to Marcus. The symbolism was powerful and not lost on the audience or television viewers. Marcus had come full circle, facing his original mistake with dignity and discipline. After the ceremony, something unexpected happened. The other guards, who had initially viewed Marcus as a curiosity in William's training project, began to show genuine acceptance. They invited him to join their evening meal and shared stories of their own military experiences. Marcus had earned their respect through dedication rather than sympathy. The television crew captured an emotional moment when Marcus was presented with an honorary certificate, acknowledging his completion of the intensive training program. As he stood between William and Colonel Roberts, the transformation from careless tourist to respectful advocate was complete and visible to everyone watching. That evening, William made a decision that surprised even himself. He approached Marcus privately and extended an invitation that went beyond the television program. "If you ever return to London," William said, "you would be welcome to visit us at the barracks. You have earned the right to be considered a friend of the regiment." Marcus was overwhelmed by the gesture, understanding that William was offering forgiveness and friendship in place of the revenge he could have demanded. The ice cream incident had created an unlikely bond between two men from completely different backgrounds, united by mutual respect and shared understanding. The program was drawing to a close, but both men realized that their relationship had evolved beyond instructor and student, beyond victim and perpetrator. They had become allies in promoting understanding between military service members and the civilians they protect, turning a moment of accidental humiliation into an opportunity for education and respect. As Marcus prepared for his final day of training, he knew that he would return home as a completely different person, carrying with him a deep appreciation for military service and a friendship that had grown from the most unlikely circumstances imaginable. The final day arrived with a ceremony that no one had expected when the program began. The palace had decided to hold a special recognition event, acknowledging both Marcus's transformation and William's exceptional instruction. The same courtyard where Marcus had struggled through his first day of training was now decorated with formal banners and filled with distinguished guests. Marcus stood in perfect formation alongside William, both men wearing their dress uniforms with pride. The contrast was striking. The American accountant who had accidentally humiliated a royal guard now stood as his equal, having earned the respect of an entire regiment through dedication and humility. Colonel Roberts addressed the assembled crowd, which included military officials, television executives, and reporters from around the world. He spoke about the unexpected positive outcome of what had begun as an international embarrassment, praising both men for turning a moment of accidental disrespect into an educational opportunity that had touched millions of viewers. The television program had achieved ratings that exceeded all expectations, but more importantly, it had changed public perception of military service. Recruitment offices reported increased interest from young people who had been inspired by Marcus's journey and William's patient instruction. The viral humiliation had become a catalyst for genuine respect and understanding. When Marcus was invited to speak, his words were heartfelt and genuine. He addressed the cameras directly, speaking to the millions of people who had watched his transformation over the past week. "I came to London as a tourist looking for the perfect photograph," he began, his voice steady and confident. "Instead, I learned about honor, discipline, and the true meaning of service." He turned to William, his expression filled with gratitude and respect. "Sergeant Hartley could have demanded punishment or public humiliation for my accident. Instead, he gave me the greatest gift possible, the opportunity to understand what I had unknowingly disrespected. His patience and instruction have changed my life forever." William's response was characteristically measured, but filled with unexpected warmth. He spoke about the challenges of military service and the importance of public understanding and support. He acknowledged that Marcus's genuine effort and transformation had exceeded all expectations, proving that respect and understanding could bridge any cultural or personal divide. The most surprising moment came when Marcus announced his plans for returning to Ohio. He had arranged with his employer to take an extended leave of absence to establish a non-profit organization dedicated to supporting military families and promoting understanding of military service. The ice cream incident had inspired him to dedicate his life to honoring the people he had accidentally disrespected. William revealed his own surprise. He had been selected to serve as a cultural liaison, traveling to the United States to work with Marcus's organization and promote international military cooperation. The man who had sought revenge had instead found a partner in promoting the values he held dear. The ceremony concluded with a moment that brought everything full circle. A young child approached Marcus with an ice cream cone, clearly coached by parents hoping to recreate the viral moment. Instead of remaining at attention, Marcus knelt down to the child's level, accepted the ice cream with a smile, and shared it with the young visitor while explaining the importance of respecting military service. The gesture was spontaneous and genuine, showing that Marcus had learned to balance military discipline with human compassion. The cameras captured the moment, but it felt natural rather than staged, demonstrating how completely Marcus had internalized the lessons of his training. As the formal ceremony ended, William and Marcus walked together toward the palace gates where their unlikely friendship had begun. The tourist crowds parted respectfully, many recognizing them from the television program. Children waved from their parents' shoulders, and adults offered words of thanks and encouragement. The ice cream vendor who had witnessed the original incident approached them with a smile, offering free treats to commemorate the positive ending to their story. Both men accepted graciously, enjoying the sweet desserts without fear of accidents or humiliation. The vendor later told reporters that he had never seen such a perfect example of how mistakes could become opportunities for growth. Marcus's flight home was delayed, giving him extra time to spend with his new friends at the barracks. The other guards had fully accepted him as an honorary member of their brotherhood, presenting him with a regimental tie that he would treasure forever. The bonds formed during his week of training had created lasting friendships that would continue long after the cameras stopped rolling. When Marcus finally boarded his plane to Ohio, he carried with him more than just memories and souvenirs. He had discovered a purpose that transformed his entire life trajectory, turning an embarrassing vacation mishap into the foundation for meaningful work, promoting military understanding and support. William watched the plane disappear into the clouds, reflecting on how completely their relationship had evolved. What had begun as an opportunity for justified revenge had become something far more valuable, a friendship based on mutual respect and shared commitment to honoring military service. The viral video of the ice cream incident still circulated online, but it was now accompanied by the full story of transformation and redemption. Viewers saw not just a moment of accidental humiliation, but a complete journey from ignorance to understanding, from disrespect to advocacy. Marcus Thompson returned home as a different man, carrying with him the discipline, honor, and purpose he had learned from a royal guard, who had turned the perfect opportunity for revenge into the perfect lesson in forgiveness, growth, and the true meaning of service to others.